Hello and welcome to AFI Fest 2020 presented by Audi. I'm Claudia Puig, Senior Programmer for AFI Fest. And first I want to thank all of the supporters of the festival, our presenting sponsor Audi, and our AFI members and you, our audience. I'm so happy to be here today with writer-director Zoe Wittock and actor Noémie Merlant. I have to say, it's such an original and inventive ride that we took in Jumbo, and I love what it has to say about love and acceptance. And thank you for this touching and lyrical and unique story. Noémie, it's such a pleasure to have you with us too. I know you both are in Paris right now. Must be nice to be there. We're all stuck where we are. And I wanted to ask you, starting with you, Zoe, this is such a interesting, this is your first feature. I know you've done shorts, and I know you are an AFI alum, so we're thrilled about that. I'd love to know about the origin of the story, because I had read about a woman who fell in love with a tilt-a-whirl. I read about a woman who got married to a Ferris wheel in the Eiffel Tower. Where did you get the idea for the story?
Yeah, so the original idea just came from me reading an article. I was just, randomly going through a newspaper, and suddenly I see this title, which is like "Woman Married the Eiffel Tower," which is a sensationalist title. And I was like, okay, what the hell just happened here? So I started reading the article, and I find it really interesting but strange and funny at the same time, and I don't know how to feel about it. Should I condemn it? Should I accept it? Should I, there was so many questions that were coming from just reading that article, and at the same time it made me laugh. So I needed to know more about it. I got curious and I started researching the subject matter. That's when I realized that there was actually quite a lot of people around the world that are called objectum sexuals, and that fall in love with inanimate objects, specifically big sort of landmark objects. And I was like, really? I didn't know anything about that. So then, went further, and at some point I figured I really needed to talk to someone who had gone through that kind of, realization. And I contacted Erica Eiffel, who married the Eiffel Tower, thus the last name. And I think that's when everything sort of changed for me, because I really went from looking at that story from the outside to looking at it from the inside and from a more human perspective. And I thought that's when it became really interesting. If I, as a person and as a filmmaker, can go from "this is really weird" to "oh, you know what, I can actually understand where you're coming from," and have that journey. I was like, if I can bring anyone on that journey with me, that would be, something that I would feel very proud about. So that's when I started really pushing further into the story, the writing, the research, etc., etc. Yeah.
Fascinating. You picked such a challenging subject for your first project. Is that something you've always wanted to do, sort of like tackle barriers and knock them down? Are you drawn to that?
Yeah, I just feel that when you're making a film, if it's not pushing the boundaries and forcing you to ask some questions, as well as being entertaining, because for me it's important that the movie is an entertaining moment that you can just enjoy and laugh and cry with, but that you come out of it wanting to debate and discuss with your friends that you went to the movies with, or the mask that you went to the movies with at the moment. But yeah, I think it's just so important that a movie starts up a dialogue. So that's why I was attracted to that subject, and it was very ambitious, but I find that quite thriving to be like, okay, well, this is so unique and strange that it is very ambitious and hard, but then the reward is that much more exciting in the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. Noémie, what drew you to want to play the role of Jeanne? Because it's I would think it's also a challenging role. Physically as well as emotionally.
It's a unique character, and it's a really, when I first read the script, it was like, okay, this is something not common. This script, this character, this love story it's an extraordinary love story, and I love the poesy. You can say poesy?
Yeah, the poetry.
Poetry, yeah.
Poetry.
I like poesy. Poesy is prettier.
Yeah,
it's a better word.
Poetry in this script and in this film, and I like the fact that this Jeanne is following her desire. It's about her coming out also, and she is even if she is really introvert, she is strong. She follow her desire. She tried to move her mother to understand her, and I think this is strong. And what I liked also a lot in this script when I first read it is the fact that Zoe has a point of view really intelligent. That's why we have this fantasy, this surrealism, and the emotions. She tells the story. She tried to make people understand this story through the emotions, and I think it's the best way. And so there is no judgment. There is no.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, no judgment on Jeanne and her love story, and that I think that Cinematography.
Yeah, it carried me away.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I thought was really, there was no judgment, and we could understand. We really, because of your performance too, I mean, we really believed her. And I appreciated what your movie had to say about love. You know, love is love, and as long as you're not hurting anyone, as I think it was Hubert that says that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what do you care whom she loves if it makes her happy?
Yeah, exactly. I think that one sentence that Hubert says in the movie, like, she's not hurting anyone, is really kind of the point of the film. And you know, it might look like naive on the outside and simple, but I think nowadays, with the amount of sarcasm that we have and the amount of darkness that we have, I think it's a really courageous move, and that's what Hubert does in the film, to be courageous, to be like, it's as simple as she's not hurting anyone, so just let it be. Why keep pushing against it, you know? And I think that having that kind of first degree point of view, you know, where you're in the character's point of view and the gaze, and something very human and very emotional without any sarcasm behind, is a more daring move, I think, today than it would be to kind of look at it from above and be like, oh, not judgmental necessarily, but looking at it from a mental disorder kind of way, you know, which is a more obvious way of treating the story.
Absolutely. No, that's very true. I really like the way you explored the relationship between the mother and daughter as well. Because there was such an earnestness to Jeanne. She wanted her mother to share and to celebrate that she had fallen in love, and the mother was so dismissive and closed-minded. What was your relationship like, Noémie, on set with Yes, yeah.
Actually, it was a lot of fun with Emmanuel.
She's
crazy.
Really?
In a good way. She is an actress, really, really generous and not scared of anything. And so it's, yeah, we were kind of the same page. Say that?
Yeah, on the same page. Yeah.
On the same page, and we like to try, and Zoe liked that. We were happy to try again new things and new, make proposition, and it was really a happy moment of work with her, and friendship started.
Nice.
I love. Sorry, for me, it's true what you said. It's not just a movie of this extraordinary love story with Jumbo. It's also a whole story with the mother, with the mother of and Jeanne, and it's also a love story, and the love of the mother is present, but it's also so much, maybe sometimes toxic. And it's all the movie talks about all the movements that Jeanne has to do and the mother has to do to accept, accept your daughter as she is, and it's always hard the moment where our parents realize that we're not completely exactly where we
what they expected
what they expected of us, and And I think this is a really important point in the movie that I really, really.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's really important. I've, you know, with the few screenings that we were lucky to have before COVID hit and communicating with other audiences, a lot of things came up where parents would come up to me and really be in tears, but because they, you know, it's not that they were in that specific situation, but they had been in a situation where they did not understand their child and there was a misunderstanding, which is obviously always out of good intention. You know, you want the best for your child and you think the best direction is that direction. And we're learning as a society on like how to also let go of that control of the parent and guide your child without imposing one journey or the other. And I think that's why the movie is really about tolerance in a big way. It's definitely about tolerance of her sexuality, her identity, but it's also a tolerance of a parent to a child, you know, and looking at the world differently. So yeah, that relationship, mother-daughter relationship was for me really, really the core story, the core relationship of the story. Obviously, Jumbo's story, love story was a challenging one, but the core emotion was like, how is Jeanne going to convince her mother or not, you know, that whatever she's slowly understanding about herself is who she is, not someone else, you know, and that journey. And I actually wrote the film when I was coming out of AFI, so first I wrote it in English and then translated it into French. But when I was coming out of AFI, the conservatory, I was really young, I was 21. So I think I was in that coming of age moment where you're looking for who you truly are and looking to transfer that to your parents and have them accept it and understand it. So I think that's why it touched me particularly, that relationship.
Absolutely. I think you could look at it as a young person, you know, who wants their parents to accept their choices, whatever the choices are, whether it's,
exactly.
You know, and I looked at it as a parent because I have, you know, daughters are in their 20s thinking about, yeah, how accepting am I of their choices? So I think you can look at it and just as a human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I love that aspect of it. I think that's really, it's wonderful. I was curious about the setting. Was that already an amusement park that you used, or did you create that, and where did you shoot it?
We actually shot in Belgium, so I'm from Belgium, and Belgium was a big part of the production of this film as well as Luxembourg. So we shot partly in Belgium and Luxembourg, but the park is in Belgium. And
where in Belgium?
It's in the Ardennes, because I myself, my whole part of my family is from the Ardennes, so I really love the north, you know, which is north of France and Belgium, the Ardennes, and I love that area with those big pine trees, and that's really something that I wanted to find in the film. And we were looking for a park and not really finding the right one, and then suddenly there was this one, which was like kind of in an like a cove, alcove, how do you say, like in a dip, with this river running by it, and suddenly it was like, okay, well, this is like a fairy tale park, and you know, it's for younger kids, but so we just kind of had to transform it to make it slightly more adult looking, and we brought Jumbo to the park, but the whole setting was there, and it was like, I don't know what I would have done if they had said no, we couldn't shoot there. So
you created that whole park though, because
yeah.
That was
Yeah,
wonderful.
we reset designed with my production designer, William Abello, who is great and is crazy enough to want to take on those challenges with the budget that we have. But yeah, the main setting was there, and then we kind of transformed it all and brought Jumbo in and did a whole, how do you say, change of look of Jumbo as well, like change his lights and electrical system, and change the way it looked. We changed everything. So we had to make this machine go from being automatic to being a manual machine so that we could use it like a puppet, you know?
That's so interesting. I loved the production design was amazing, and the cinematography in your film was really stunning too. And it's so visually poetic. And the colors and the lights and the communication and all that. Did you, your cinematographer is Thomas Boulin?
Thomas, yeah.
How closely did you work with him? And, you know, from what you learned in film school, how did you work with the cinematographer?
Yeah. It was really interesting. Before I studied at AFI as a director, I was a cinematographer as a student for my bachelor. So it's something
Oh,
that, you know, I've always had at heart, very visual films, and to really bring that sort of extra visual layer to a very emotional story. So I'm always looking for that balance between strong visuals, but real emotional stories. So I don't want the visuals to kind of overtake the story, and it really needs to integrate. So there was something that was already there in the script where a lot of visual experiences were really anchored into the script. So when Thomas came in, the reason why we decided to work together, because we had never worked together before in the film, is that he came in really having understood the story and came in with visuals that suddenly were what I had written in the script, and like I could suddenly see them. And so we were like, okay, well, this is, you know, if you can translate that so quickly, so fast, so easily, then we're probably the right person to be working together. So, but it was a real challenge because we didn't have a lot of money on the film, you know, compared to the ambition of the film, you know, which is, I guess, every film's case, but it just was even more present here. And so it was really tough to keep that challenging visuals without, you know, impeding on the actor's work, because that was the priority, right? Get the emotional across, and then the visuals, even though they're important, they did come second. So it was always that constant battle of how do we get those very pristine visuals, but keep an arena of fun and play for the actors to try things out. Because what I, like Noémie said, what I loved about working with Emmanuel and Noémie is that we had a real trust between them and myself, and we could try things. And the point was like, this is such a touchy story in terms of tone and subject matter that it was important to make sure that really had that detail that would sort of make the difference in the editing room. So we would fight to get as many takes as we could, and you know, within time. So at some point we had to cut a lot of the script also so that we could fit in the right scenes and make them right. But if they were not right, there was no point even, like, you know, shooting with it. So yeah, it was that challenge.
the tones, it seems like that's such a key thing. Did you find, as the writer, did you find yourself rewriting, and was that, you know, trying to just approximate that tone, or did you feel like a lot of that happened in the course of filming? How did you reach that?
To be honest, there was a lot of rewrites and a lot of development, which I think, to be honest, was too long. But it's what it took to sell a story like that to financiers, because it's like, you know, you had to be so precise on the script, and it was my first feature, so they really financiers had to be confident in the fact that I could bring this to life because the vision was so precise. But with Noémie, and she can probably talk to you better about this, but we did some rehearsals ahead of the shoot so that we were all really comfortable with the material that was very precise. But the point was that to be really so comfortable with the characters' body language and all, that they could have fun and figure things out also on set, you know, because there's always great things that come from just exploring on set. So I had very specific ideas, leaning on the actors to also suggest things and try things out, and it sometimes fails and sometimes succeeds. So they were like, yeah, that's it. That's the exact emotion that we need. And, you know, so yeah, collaboration.
I wanted to ask you about the collaboration, Noémie. The process of rehearsal must have been, did you find yourself finding the character, Jeanne, because she's a very particular kind of person? How did you get into her skin?
Yeah, we had quite a lot of rehearsals because it was, as Zoe said, it was important to have a frame, because it's such a complex character. And we didn't want to be on set and think about too many things. You're less free to try things and find the emotions when you have to think of all the technical things that you have to. So if you can have time before to get, you know, your body language ready, the way you talk, your way your lines, I mean, everything can be ready before, then you have more freedom on set. So it was really important, this moment, and it's the moment where we were really focused on the body language, because Jeanne is really a mix of introvert and when she is with people around her, and so she is really closed in. And when she's alone or with the jumbo, she's open, more large, more like it's complete. Everything is completely different. Her gaze is completely different. Her smile also, and
yeah, that's right. We worked a lot on the smile. What was the smile in front of people, and what was the smile in front of Jumbo?
Oh, interesting. Yes.
Yeah, and we did a lot of the rehearsals actually in this apartment. And
and
Noémie would like walk around all the apartment and like do rounds and rounds and rounds, and like going crazy and be like, okay, maybe more like this and like that, and until it became so mechanical that it became natural, you know, like it became like.
Then I don't have to think about
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And it was the same for like she is really like
Anchored
in
the ground.
and the head in the stars, we say.
Yeah, in the stars.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was this balance.
The dichotomy of the balance. Yeah.
Because she has the way that we worked it is like her character has a very sort of heavy lower body, which is, you know, the hips and the feet anchored, like you said, and then the rest of the body is more mobile, meaning like when there's people around, it's like inside, and when there's not, suddenly it becomes open and gracious and a lot more, a lot lighter, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
It's someone who, like, it's a really sensibility to colors, to sounds, to...
Oh, yes. She's sensitive to colors. Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Sounds and the atmosphere and the matière.
Yeah, the texture and...
The texture, like it's hypersensitivity.
Yeah, hypersensitivity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this was an important start point to work on.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. And that was in every kind of situation. She's hypersensitive, and that makes her such an interesting character because she's always reacting to everything that's happening around her.
And with people, what is different, what I felt is, I think for everybody it's hard, but I felt for her it was way even more, to know how to be in front of people desires, people expectations, like Marc, for example, also not only the mother, but also Marc, and it's too heavy, too strong for her. That's why she kind of panicked, because
it's funny, I've heard people call it a coming of age drama. I've also heard people say, well, maybe she was autistic, or, you know, like people have all these labels they want to put on it. And to me, it's just a story. It's a story about somebody whose feelings and who she is. Or do you feel like there is a label to put to it?
No, I think it's been really hard to position the film because, you know, when you distribute a film, you need a label. It's a coming of age, it's a romance, it's a sci-fi, it's a genre movie, it's a drama, it's an auteur film. And you're like, I think it's all of it, you know, and it's even comical at times. You know, you're supposed to laugh with the film at times. So I think that it's so many things that it's really hard to put a label on it. I will say it is probably one of the most unique romances you'll see, but like, you know, whether it comes from the comedy, the drama, the fantastical genre, it doesn't matter, I think. We actually purposefully, in the film, chose not to label the character as autistic, even though a lot of the objective sexuals OS people are autistic, and I sent a lot of videos to Noémie to inspire herself from, in terms of the way to speak and the way to handle herself from some either mildly autistic or just more strongly autistic, Asperger's syndrome. But We didn't want to talk about it in the film because we didn't want the audience to judge her, being like, oh, she's Asperger, so she's like that because she has Asperger, and then you suddenly put her in a box. It's like, oh, she might be, but she might not. And the fact that you don't really know in the film, I think pushes you to stop thinking with your head and start thinking with your heart. It's like, what are you getting from that character? No matter who she is or what she is, stop labeling her and just like experience it. Like she's
experience and understand her. Yeah. And feel. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I wanted to get back to the AFI thing, where just as a final question, what you learned in your directing program at AFI, and you know how that translated to what you actually see on screen here.
I learned so many things, both from my teachers and also from the other students that were there with me. I mean, it's such an intense like 2-year experience where you're making film, talking about film, you know, and going to see movies like nonstop 24/7, that I think what I learned the most, I think, is, you know, of course you learn more about story and visual language, and that gets naturally developed by just so many discussions and films that you see and discussions with the teachers. But it was really how to work on a film set, and like also to collaborate, and how do you sort of get the best out of your team. You know, as a director, you're responsible for a team, and you're not just like a tyrant saying, this is my vision and this is the way it's going to be. And I think so many film schools will teach you to push your vision forward no matter what. And it's like, at AFI, I felt like, find your vision, find your voice, and find the people that will help you bring it forward, and, you know, surround yourself with the right team, but also learn how to get the best out of them and how to learn from them, and how can they make, you know, enhance your vision as well. And I think that's been my philosophy since I went to AFI, and it's really always been in the back of my mind as something to always be aware of, you know, collaboration, and you know, how do I steal everybody else's idea? I'm kidding. But yeah, no, but you know what I mean.
Yes. Noémie, I wanted to ask you what it was like working with Zoe, and sort of about that and what you want people to take away from the film.
Actually, we spent a lot of time together even before the shooting, because we start the audition like a couple of
like a year or two before.
Yeah, a year or two. So we spent a lot of time, and it's so pleasant, even more when it's the first film, a first feature film, because there is like Zoe, she has so much energy. Like she was working on this film since like at that time, 2012.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was like so powerful to, you know, to have a gift like that with this role in this movie, and this risk, because it's a risk when you do a movie.
Like that, talking about this.
And so it was really intense and pleasant to work with her from the beginning to the end, and even now, you know, it's an eternal dialogue and discussion that are really interesting, and it's all about sharing with Zoe. So even for the, you know, next project that we talk together, and it's nice to have, you know, friends, artists like that, and we have like the same age, we have like so much in common, so it's apparently more than just our age.
Yeah, apparently we look a little bit alike.
So, and even for a first film, it's really impressive. Because she knew that it was important to build this frame first, the technical things like body language and stuff first, and then give us a lot of details to be ready, and then on set have the confidence enough to give us space and freedom also. So and what was the next question?
Just what you would like people to take away from the film, to walk away thinking
first is a good thing.
Always a good thing.
But thinking, and if you have emotions, if you feel emotion, then it's we are happy. What I felt when I looked at this, the film, that I realized when I looked at it, it's also a reconnection with ourselves, with the, you know, maybe the kids that we used to be, and like the person inside us. It's it's a reconnection, and it's about tolerance, about
yourself as
me
well
with
as
my comment dire, nous avec nous-mêmes.
It's about tolerance for others, but also tolerance to us, to ourselves, to our inner selves, and be accepting of that. Self-love, which I think the more self-love you have for yourself, the more tolerant you are for others. So
absolutely. Well, that is a beautiful note to wrap up on. Thank you, Zoe, and thank you, Noémie, so much. This has been so wonderful. Thank you for your wonderful film.
Hope everybody enjoyed the film.
Yes, and so we want to make sure people tell their friends. And we want to thank everyone out there who's watching. Tell your friends this film is available to screen until the end of the festival, which is October 22nd at 11:59 p.m. We would love to hear from you on social media, #AFIFest. And please join us for more great films and virtual events at fest.afi.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.